Esther Wachuku, and these are the top stories. Court stops Sanusi Lamido's reinstatement as Kano Emir. Sanusi Lamido arrives Kano Government House to receive appointment letter. Northern elders urge caution in Kano Emirate crisis amid political tensions. Federal government halts Lagos-Calabar coastal road project realignment. And Bode George speaks on PDP sticking to zoning for 2027. Details now. The world news begins with a significant development occurring in the ongoing saga surrounding the Kano State Emirate Council, as the Federal High Court in Kano issued an order stopping the Kano State government from enforcing the Kano State Emirate Council repeal law. This move comes after Alhaji Aminu Baba Den Agundi, the Sarkin Dawaki Baba of the Kano Emirate, filed an application seeking to halt the enforcement of the law. The Kano State House of Assembly had earlier dissolved all four newly created emirate councils in the state, a move that was a sequel to deliberations on the floor of the House during plenary. This dissolution was a result of the repeal of the Kano State Emir's appointment and deposition law, which had created Rano, Karaye, Gaya and Bichi Emirates in addition to Kano. In a surprise move, the Kano State Governor Abba Yusuf reappointed Lamido Sanusi as Emir of Kano 4 years after he was dethroned by former governor of the state, Umar Ganduje. The governor also deposed 5 emirs appointed by Ganduje and gave them a 48-hour ultimatum to vacate their official residences and palaces. He directed them to hand over all affairs to the Commissioner for Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs. In the latest lawsuit concerning the emir's seat, the respondents in the fundamental rights case are the Kano State Government, the House of Assembly, the Speaker, the Attorney General, the Commissioner of Police, the Inspector General of Police, the Nigerian Security and Service. Meanwhile, the reinstated Emir of Kano, Alhaji Muhammadu Sanusi II, has arrived at the Kano Government House to officially receive his appointment letter. VOP News gathered that the Emir arrived in Kano late Thursday and by 10 a.m. at the Africa House in Kano Government House, from where he would proceed to the Nasarawa Emir's Palace. The Emir will Kudu. This follows Governor Abba Yusuf's reinstatement of Sanusi on Thursday, 4 years after he was dethroned by Abdullahi Ganduje, a former governor. The recent upheaval, Suleiman, issued a statement today calling for calm and restraint among all parties involved, particularly Governor Abba Yusuf and other politicians, to prevent any outbreak of violence. This tension has escalated following Governor Yusuf's decision on Thursday to reinstate Lamido Sanusi as the Emir of Kano. Sanusi's reinstatement comes 4 years after his initial deposition and is part of a significant overhaul that saw the dissolution of the 4 additional emirates, Kano, Gaya, Karaye, Bichi, Rano, established by the previous governor Abdullahi Ganduje. Governor Yusuf had disclosed that the reinstatement of Sanusi fulfilled a key campaign promise and asserted that the new law aims to restore traditional governance structures in Kano to their status prior to 2019. In another development, the federal government has shelved and diverted realignment of Lagos-Calabar coastal road projects while also saving the telecommunications infrastructure and submarine cables, among others, are the axis. With the presidential directive, telcos, MTN submarine cables and workstations along the Okun-Ajak community axis have been saved from demolition after a thorough assessment of the EIA impact on infrastructure and business activities along the Okun-Ajak community axis. The Minister of Works, David Umahi, while addressing stakeholders in Lagos on compensation and environmental impact assessment on the coastal road project, informed community groups and traditional institutions in the state, particularly the Okun-Ajak community in Lagos. Earlier, the Okuaja community cried out and warned the federal and Lagos state government over the alleged illegal variation to the Lagos-Calabar coastal highway route, which put 6 villages at the risk of demolition, and also the displacement of 3 traditional kings within the community if the plan was not shelved. Umahi buttressed the need to redesign the route to save the 600 years ancestry of Okuaja community, adding that the president, out of compassion to realize the project, added human face to save property and infrastructure of Okuaja axis, while applauding efforts of the president to divert alignment routes to save the communities from the ongoing demolition exercise stretching along the indigenous communities in the state. The minister said, following the gazetted alignment and order of the EIA assessment, over 750 houses were expected to be demolished in the old alignment, while 450 houses were marked for demolition in the new alignment after thorough assessment of the project along the Okuaja community axis. Umahi also explained that the project approval followed the process and went through the Bureau of Public Procurement after consideration by the Federal Executive Council as prescribed by law. Umahi said the project followed certification process and environmental impact assessment acts and lent credence to it and followed the process involved. He also noted that the BPP issued a certificate of no objection on the project to the Ministry of Works in line with the Procurement Act, but added that the Ministry of Works took the certificate of no objection to the Federal Executive Council, and the Federal Executive Council debated and approved it. You're currently listening to the World News at 12 on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. We'll take a very short break. When we return, more news, and we'll head into a news analysis segment where I'll be joined by Barrister Eluchie, who is a political, national and social affairs commentator. Barrister Eluchie will be lending his voice on the realignment of the Lagos-Calabar coastal highway. In fact, he just tweeted today on his own perception of why or what he thinks about the realignment and, of course, what the initial intention of the federal government was about it. Thank you for staying with us. All right, welcome back. You're currently listening to the World News at 12 on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. Barrister Eluchie, I'm going to start off with this particular development. Apparently, there was a stakeholders meeting yesterday in Victoria Island where the Minister of Works attended that meeting, and it was about the Lagos-Calabar coastal highway. It's quite surprising to hear that there was a realignment, that they have decided to shelve and divert realignment of Lagos-Calabar coastal road project. And the idea was to save telecommunications infrastructure and submarine cables. Barrister, I recall when Professor Dave Umahi was given a press conference about this particular Lagos-Calabar coastal highway, the new blueprint they actually put out and the areas whereby they will commence demolition exercises. Questions were being posed at him. One of those that went viral was one of the Arise TV senior correspondent, Leila. She asked him that what about the EIA impact on infrastructure and business activities if they had gone through it, and if the EIA was going to accommodate this demolition exercise that we're going to take on this route. And Dave Umahi said right there categorically that they had gone through it, that they had actually checked it, and everything is in order. And she asked him particularly that day that would he make that report available, and he said yes. Now, is it not obvious that that realignment or the EIA wasn't properly gone through? I mean, it's very confusing to have commenced. Houses have been demolished, properties destroyed, and now they are shelving the plans to continue demolition. Please, what's your take on this?
Well, from the very onset, it was clear that this Lagos-Calabar coastal road was a scam that had inbuilt in it fraud to destroy businesses and to deceive Nigerians. And like you rightly pointed out, when the Arise lady asked Mr. Umahi about the EIA, Environmental Impact Assessment. And he was trying to show some bravado to try to shout the journalist down. It has now been exposed that the fraud, or the person used to perpetrate fraud in this instance, is Dave Umahi, clearly. But what Nigerians should understand is what is actually behind the destruction of landmark resorts and hotels. If you know the terrain very well, opposite landmark, sharing the same Bay Area, Lagos Bay Area with landmark hotels, is the Eco Atlantic City project owned by Chagoury, Gilbert Chagoury and his Lebanese brothers. Now, it is very clear that the whole idea of destroying landmark was to make the Bay Area exclusive for this Chagoury, who claims to be, who is a very close associate of Bola Tinubu for donkey years. So Nigerians should realize that with this power at the presidential level, at the center, there is simply no way any sensible businessman, any foreign direct investor, any investor from outside will come into Nigeria in a scene like this, where investors' properties are destroyed just to satisfy those in government.
But Barrister Ezra, let me come in here. You said that Chagoury used the federal government, President Tinubu and the Minister of Works to destroy landmark resorts. And you actually used a particular comment. I saw that tweet. You said that these are more reasons why dealing with a kakistocracy peopled by crime dons is risky. Can you elaborate on that?
Simple. The landmark owned by Nigerians, it pays over R1 billion in taxes to the Lagos State government and to relevant Nigerian authorities. Why, for goodness sake, will anybody try to destroy that project for a convicted Lebanese? This Chagoury character has been convicted in the United States. He is neck deep in fraud. In fact, a U.S. congressman has already been convicted for receiving bribe from. Now, why will the government act against its own citizens to fulfill the desires of a criminal? I mean, it's shocking. And tomorrow we'll say you are going to look for foreign direct investors, that you are wondering why PZ is leaving, why multinationals are leaving Nigeria. Why will they not leave? Who will be in it? Who will bring in his cover to, when you have characters like David Umahi and Bola Tinubu presiding and giving their personal cronies several advantages over Nigerians? Now, they are telling us that they're going to shift the rules of this the so-called Lagos-Calabar coastal.
Yes.
After destroying billions of naira.
That brings me to my next question. They have destroyed billions of naira worth of property. The compensation they gave is nothing to write home about, because if you look at what those owners of those businesses, the investment they had made, and even monies that they had borrowed that they were going to have to remit over time, what the federal government gave as compensation is nothing compared to what has been invested. Now they have destroyed those properties and gave different excuses for it. Will the federal government rebuild those things that they have destroyed? Now they have decided to shelve continuing with the demolition exercise. Will they rebuild it? Will they pay those people back the money? What excuse would they give? You recall that before this happened, they begged Dave Umahi, especially the landmark resort guy, begged the Minister of Works, begged the federal government that they worked on the initial blueprint for that Lagos-Calabar coastal highway. And the initial blueprint was what enabled them continue with the resort. That why the sudden change or the sudden rerouting or rerouting? Barrister Eluchie, will the federal government refund? Will they rebuild? Will they pay back? Why begin this exercise if you did not go through the assessment, and then now you have disclosed that you are shelving and realigning?
I can tell you clearly that these characters in government will not refund. Even if they do refund, for goodness sake, this is not their private funds. This is funds belonging to the people of Nigeria. And if they will refund, that is money that will have been used for other sources, in other areas, for healthcare, for other road networks, for other stuff. Not to reduce.
Hello, Barrister. The network seems not to be our friend this afternoon. Can you hear me? Barrister Eluchie, can you hear me? All right, we seem to be having a network connection. While I try to reestablish connection with Barrister Eluchie, we'll take more news stories. A former People's Democratic Party National Deputy Chairman, Bode George, has disclosed that the party must stick to its power rotation ground between the North and South to win in 2027. George made the statement while fielding questions from newsmen during his address to the nation titled, "My Thoughts on the State of Our Country in the Last 25 Years. He was reacting to a recent statement made by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and PDP's 2023 presidential candidate that he would drop his ambition in 2027 if the party sticks, or rather if the party picks the Labour Party presidential candidate in 2023, Mr. Peter Obi. George said power rotation must be sacrosanct, adding that the PDP should have learnt its lessons from the defeat of 2023. We've been able to reestablish connection with Barrister Eluchie. Barrister Eluchie, please, can you continue from what you were talking about?
Yes. You were talking of who is going to rebuild whether.
Yes, that was the question I was asking.
Refund.
Yes.
And my answer is this: even if they decide to refund, this is not the private funds of this minister or the president. This is funds belonging to the people of Nigeria that should have been devoted to other sources, be it healthcare, increased road networks, or the educational system. So the issue is not even when they refund, because I know they won't even refund. They have achieved their vindictiveness. What they want to achieve is to destroy landmark and to give opportunities to the Chagoury brothers to excel or to keep on occupying a monopoly in Nigeria.
What is okay? Go ahead.
Sorry, Esther, the problem is this. Ordinarily, people would have expected aggrieved industrialists or funders or investors to approach the courts for relief or for answers to questions.
Yes.
Now, is the Nigerian courts going to be willing to accept these briefs or give a real judgment in this matter against the federal government? And this is what investors will be looking at. And they know that the Nigerian court system, as presently constituted, will not be willing to do justice in this matter. Because justice in this matter is very, very clear. Not just to rebuild, but also to pay punitive damages for the hurt and harm caused to the owners of this landmark resort and to their several workers. Will Nigerian courts, the same courts that found it difficult to understand what and means or to interpret basic words in the Constitution, will those courts be willing to do the right justice in this matter? If the answer to that question is no, like you and I know,
yes,
why will you or any foreign investor be willing to bring your funds to a government manned by kakistocrats? These are virtually the very worst elements who are ruling over us. Can you imagine Umahi, who calls himself an engineer? You begin a destruction project of this magnitude, and you forget that you should have reached out to understand where the underground telecommunication and marine cables are. And he has the temerity to come and tell us that he now knows their marine cables, blah, blah, blah. Were those marine cables laid yesterday or within the past 2-3 years? They've been there for some time. It was clear that this landmark resort was destroyed to just out of spite and malice. Now, who is going to pay for this damage done to Nigeria's image?
Yes, that's
because the world is now looking at us. Yes, we have destroyed an industrialist to allow a fraudster to continue to prosper. And the fraudster in this case is the Chagoury brothers. And I say that from the basis of the fact that they have been convicted of crimes in the United States and other parts of the world previously.
And so if they've been convicted of crimes in the United States and we're having businesses with them here, what does that categorize our administration as? And why was this not part of the, would I say, investigations or groundwork to have been, observed before the federal government went into business with these individuals? Because in as much as infrastructure is the main bane of this administration, the fact is to destroy properties worth billions of naira, properties that given that particular axis a beautiful face, and then now you have decided to pause. So if these individuals decide to sue, how will the court react to this? That's one question. Two, where is the National Assembly? Because I think that the National Assembly is supposed to speak on this. It's obvious that the Minister of Works did not do proper check, did not do the fundamentals in investigating, in going through the EIA assessment and knowing what the repercussion of that demolition would cause. Now, people's properties have been destroyed. You've left a lot of people in debt. And you're coming to make this kind of disclosure. How do you think Nigerians will take this administration serious?
Well, regarding the first question about what the courts will do, I don't think the court system will do much. I mean, it is very clear the court system, unfortunately, has fallen by droves in the estimation of just not only Nigerians, but also the international community. With regards to what the National Assembly will do in this matter, David Umahi was very, very aware. He did not make any mistakes. It was clear. So
you're saying this was deliberate on the part of the Minister of Works?
My dear, he responded to the journalists, journalists, like you rightly said, that yes, they have seen the EIA, yes, they know all the terrain, yes, they know what they are doing. So this nonsense he came to talk at this town hall meeting or wherever is immaterial. David Umahi knew what he was doing when he acted for the president to destroy landmark properties for the benefit of the Chagoury brothers, whose, like I said, their property is just across the bay, and that is at the Eco Atlantic hotels. This is just the reality. I mean, we should have known this from the very onset. When Nigerians allowed this election, the 2023 fraud that we have called an election, to subsist, it was clear that more of this kind of shenanigans will operate, will be showing up along the line. This is just one. There will be several more of these instances as we go on. Since we opted for a man who has a track record in bribery, in forgery to become our president, we're going to see more of this. And hopefully to be a lesson to Nigerians, that next time when there are elections, when there's elections going on, we must understand that our lives depend on those elections. And when there's any attempt to fraud it, to maybe obviate the will of the people, we should be ready to stand firm and say enough is enough. Because many more things like this will happen, unfortunately.
Barrister Eluchie, is it possible that the president wasn't aware of all of this? Because like the previous administration, the president would always say he was not aware, he wasn't told, or he's not on the know. Maybe President Tinubu is actually, giving the ministers the autonomy to judiciously carry out their duty and without going up, following up with whatever proceeding or process they're going through with it. So is it possible that the president could be exonerated from this and the Minister of Works is the one who was, being overzealous?
No, it was time past that we used to think that the president was an angel, all his friends are criminals. But now we all know that show me your friends and I'll show you who you are. If he had the president appointed this kind of characters around him, it only reflects his character. So there is no way Mr. Tinubu will tell us he's not aware of this. Because in this instance, the sole beneficiary of the destruction of landmark resorts is the Chagoury brothers. And those are acclaimed long-time pals of Mr. Bola Tinubu. So he should forget that story of he's not aware. Because even Mr. Umahi, it can actually be exonerated as acting just based on Mr. President's orders, because I don't think he knows any these Chagouries or the landmark characters. Actually, when this issue of landmark started, Mr. Umahi came out and was pontificating that nothing will happen to landmark until he realized who landmark was actually opposed against, which is the Chagoury brothers, which is in essence Bola Tinubu. So Tinubu cannot tell us he's not aware.
Barrister Ezra, this is quite unfortunate and this is quite embarrassing. If the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu wants to resuscitate the confidence and the hope, or rather rebrand the perspective of his administration to the Nigerian people who stopped trusting them, do you think this move has worsened the matter? I mean, how do you explain this?
One, Nigerians did not trust in this regime. Nigerians knew Bola Tinubu from the onset.
No, so, people voted for him, and that's why he won.
No, the reality is Nigerians knew him, and he claims people voted for him, but he knows why he became president. So let's not mince facts. The reality is all there. All the reports attest to this fact. So the issue is this: the Mr. President is still continuing with that characterism, that behavior, that I am there, I am the boss, and nothing will happen. That was how he removed the fuel subsidy. That's how he pushed on with several other projects. So he does not give a damn about you or I or what Nigerians think. Unfortunately, this is the reality. So the problem is, how do Nigerians make this presidency realize that the people are the sovereign, the people are the boss, and we must craft that way, otherwise these guys will run us aground. They don't give a damn, and that is what we must realize. Maybe today is landmark and it's been destroyed, but many other countries are looking for people like landmark. But for how long will Nigerians allow themselves to be raped, destroyed, and killed in their own country by a government that is filled with kakistocrats?
Barrister Eluchie, I want to say thank you so much for taking your time to share your perspective on the questions posed at you on the World News at 12.
Thank you very much. And these views are mine, and they're not VOP's news. Yes. Thank you very much for the
basically, Barrister Eluchie's views. All right. Thank you so much. And now to wrap up, here again are the top stories. You heard that court stopped Sanusi Lamido's reinstatement of Kano Emir. Sanusi Lamido arrives Kano Government House to receive appointment letter. Northern elders urge caution in Kano Emirate crisis amid political tensions. Federal government holds Lagos-Calabar coastal road project realignment. And PDP sticks to zoning for 2027, Bode George discloses. That's a wrap on World News at 12. My name is Esther Mwachuku. Good afternoon and thank you for listening.